Hey guys, if you don't know who I am, I'm Savia Rocks, and I help people tell their stories, stay inspired, and get educated as they find the pride of who they are within creativity, but most of all, without judgment. Join us as we talk about
You really want to leave a legacy, do something for mankind. Do something that's going to benefit not just your children, everyone else's children.
I think our job as humans is to become the person we were born and peel away the cultural stuff that was given to us, the trauma, like peel away the stuff that changed us or that was thrown on us or made us small or made us go off track.
The biggest thing I've always found is when people think they know so much, then they start knowing so little.
And I'm making the right choice, and I'm showing up for myself, and I'm showing up for what matters in life.
Sometimes I think that trauma doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I think trauma can help you make choices in your life that turn something that started bad into something beautiful. So guys, welcome to season 7 of the Us People podcast with Savia Rocks. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Us People podcast. I'm your host, Savia Rocks, and today I am abundantly humbled to have Matt here with me. Matt is a camp director and author. Matt, I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Us People podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. So Matt, I'm gonna kindly jump into my first question, which is, Matt, could you tell me a bit about yourself, where you grew up, but also how did that influence you to be the person who you are today?
So I grew up a little bit northwest of Manhattan in a suburb of New York City in a county called Rockland County. And it was a very typical American suburb, but it was very, very diverse. And I mean that in the best way possible. It had a lot of all different kinds of people, all sorts of people coming from other countries, all sorts of religions and backgrounds. And it was really a really nice place to grow up. What was important for me, I think, was how much emphasis my parents put on education. And they were both teachers, and they did a lot for me in terms of making sure that I always had everything that I needed to succeed in school. And that was always an emphasis in our family. Whatever happened, school always came first. And for me, for my family, part of that education was summer camp.
Yeah.
So it's a very American thing, a little bit of a Northeast American thing where children oftentimes go to summer camp in the 2 months they have off from school. And it was important for my family that I went to summer camp and my sister went to summer camp because my parents understood that there was a lot of learning that happened there. So I think my upbringing, I think the thing that was most influential to me was how my parents really emphasized always learning, being a lifelong learner. On the weekends, the whole family would sit and read books, which I don't think ever happens anymore these days. But it was, I remember many, many weekends where we just sit in the living room and each one of us had a book in our hands.
Do you know what? That's actually a beautiful thing to be able to do in the families. I don't think in the past 10 years, especially with mobile phones, that I've ever really seen a family sit down and just be together, let alone have a book out. I look at people on the train now, Matt, and I'm still trying to count. I still count the people who have a book compared to the people who are on their phones.
I'm surprised you even see people with books these days.
I'm lucky. I might see like under 5, but they're still there. Literally.
Yeah, it's funny how the phone can bring people together in one sense, but divide us in another sense.
Exactly that. So, Matt, my next question for you is actually one of my most favorite questions to ask my guests who come on the show, which is, Matt, can you define yourself as a person, but also who do you see when you look in the mirror? But on the flip side of that question, I like this, he's smiling already. On the flip side of this question, has there ever been a time where you have looked at yourself in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back at you? How did you manage to go from a person that you may not have liked the vision of or seeing the vision of to becoming a person that you felt had purpose in the world?
Wow, that is some question. So I think that for me, when I look in the mirror, I really see the same person I was when I was a kid, like a teenager. And I oftentimes don't even recognize myself as I get older. And I'm pretty old at this point, but I always still feel like I have the same insecurities that I had when I was 6 or 15 or 25. And it's, and I think that's okay. Right. And I think that part of this question is implicitly, are you okay with what you see?
Yes.
And I'm not a perfect person, and I am not half of the person that I wish I could be. But when you look at yourself in the mirror, you have to understand that you're doing the best you can, and all your flaws make you human.
Yes.
And if you didn't have any flaws, you wouldn't be human, and you have to be okay with it. And one thing that I've really learned, I think the past 5 or 6 years, is it's okay to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
We're all going to make mistakes, and I'm not perfect. I'm not where I want to be, but I think I'm on a path towards getting closer to that. And when I mess up, I'll forgive myself.
Do you know what? That's a beautiful answer.
Thank you.
No, absolutely. And it was the simplicity of the answer, but at the same time, it was honest. And it had a resonancy to it that just said truthful. So I love it. I completely love it. So I'm going to get into more about you being a camp director. Now, the question that a lot of people are going to say, Savia, what is a camp director? So, we know Matt as an author, but what is a camp director? What does a camp director do? What intrigued Matt to be a camp director? And there are many other questions that I have for you, Matt, when it comes to this subject. So just from your perspective, just from your analogy of deciding this is what I want to do, can you, for the guests, well, the audience, I should say, can you, for the audience, just break down what a camp director is and does, and why you decided to be a camp director?
So I get that question all the time. What does a camp director do? All the time. And every camp director gets it. And it's often phrased as, what do you do the other 10 months of the year when camp's not in session? So I've answered this question many times, and I will do my best. So obviously during the summer, my camp, I am one of 3 directors at my camp, and we have hundreds of children and hundreds of staff. So during the summer, it's like running a small city. So everything that you can think of, from the transportation and logistics to food service to the infirmary and health issues. And then you obviously get into staffing and HR issues. And then, of course, the campers have, their needs have to be met, and the campers' parents have to be met. So there's all of that goes into it. And it can be very draining. In the summer, we often work 16 plus hours a day. So we typically are working probably 100 hours in a week.
Wow.
In the summer. But it's very rewarding. So you don't always feel like you're working. Yes, you're tired, you're exhausted, but there's so much joy that comes from it. And there's such a sense of belonging that comes from doing the job that it's almost like a rush, like a drug, that you just you can't stop doing it. And then the other 10 months of the year, it's more of an office job, believe it or not. And we're doing everything from, there's a lot of sales involved, right? We have to enroll campers, and that's a sales process. So even though most of us in the camp industry don't consider ourselves salespeople, we are selling a service to families every day in the off season. And then there's hiring staff. So my camp hires over 500 staff every year. So that's a in and of itself. And then everything else that goes into running a small business. So there's marketing, there's legal, there's accounting, there's payroll, there's all sorts of things like that. So it's an interesting job. And you asked me what made me go into this.
Yeah.
And I don't really know. So I went to college. I went to university for engineering. I actually have a master's degree in engineering. And engineers, stereotypically, and I can say this because I have an engineering degree, I can say we're not the gregarious kinds of people that you might think of as standing up in front of hundreds of people. But what appealed to me about camp was just how challenging it was for me. The school side of things came very naturally to me, and all of the social stuff, the interpersonal relationships, that was hard for me as a kid. And even as an adult, it's not my forte. So camp was really challenging. And going to camp as a child helped me learn to be better at these things.
Yes.
And helped me to understand how to relate to other people. And one of the great things about camp is that you're placed in a situation where you are in a group of other kids, and you're going to love some of them and you're not going to love some of them. And you have to navigate that. And that's a skill that you need in life. So when I was looking for a job after my school career ended, I was offered the opportunity to come onto my camp full time. And it was a much less lucrative position than I had been offered at, investment banks and consulting companies. But just for some reason, I couldn't say no. And I think that reason is because, your work shouldn't be about money. Your work should be about what you love.
I like that.
And what I loved. So I didn't say no. I said yes.
See, this is what I like, because this is the best part is because, and my next question kind of tallies into that quite well when I say, who is Matt when he is by himself in the moment of his own thoughts? Because the reason why I want to tally both of you being a camp director and choosing to do this profession, because it's something that you love, it's something that you feel has purpose and you're passionate about, which is a wonderful thing to be able to do. I speak to so many people, Matt, and a lot of people who I speak to, you can always tell the ones that are doing it for the love and the ones that are doing it for the title or the money. And if you've ever noticed, the ones that are really happy are the ones that are doing it for the love. And I've always learned in life that when you do something for love, everything else will follow, because you're doing it for the love and the happiness of it. It just might take a little longer. Sometimes it depends on who you are. Sometimes it comes really quick. And then sometimes it takes on a different path where it just takes slightly longer. So my question for you, Matt, is who is Matt when he is by himself in his thoughts and his thought process?
Well, when I'm alone with my thoughts, I can get pretty deep into rabbit holes. So I'm naturally a bit of a problem solver. I like to identify problems and then come up with creative ways to solve them. So if I'm by myself and I'm thinking about an issue or a problem, I can go pretty far down that rabbit hole, and sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that's a bad thing, right? So sometimes I can't find my way out of it, but other times I can find creative solutions. And I think I'm at my most proud when I can think of a problem that needs to be solved and come up with a creative way to solve it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So in the terms of, I would love to be able to share a bit more with the audience when you talk about being a camp director and what is a day like in Matt's life when it comes to being a camp director, in the sense of how does your day run from, for example, when you wake up in the morning to when you decide, okay, I'm finding clientele, or, you're doing different things. How does it all stretch out for you? Just because I really want people to have a deeper understanding of what this is and how it works.
So the days are very different from the in season to the off season.
Yes,
so in season is probably more interesting. So I work at a day camp, so it's not a sleepaway camp. I don't live on the grounds. There are plenty of camp directors that do live on the grounds, so their days are a little bit different than a day camp director's days. But I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I am at camp by 6 o'clock.
Yes.
My role at camp during the summer is I am what's known as a program director.
Yes.
So I deal a lot with logistics and making sure the right people are in the right places at the right time with the right equipment. So that's kind of the way that I see myself. So my job is always to be at least a day, hopefully a week ahead of everybody else. So when I get to camp at 6 o'clock, I have to make sure that all the paperwork is out for the people, that they have everything that they need. And then we get into meetings where we meet with our senior staff. And that happens usually around 7:30, something like that. Yeah. And then that senior staff, they meet with their staff. So it sort of like trickles out. So it's a whole system. We have a whole system for communication. And then by about 7:30 in the morning, our buses are on the road picking up campers and staff. And there's always something that happens with the bus, whether it's a bus running late because there was, traffic on a road, or they got stuck behind a garbage truck, or whatever it is. There's always something. And then at 9 o'clock, the kids start to arrive from their buses. And between 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock, that's the best part of my day. That's when the kids are there. That's when they're having fun, they're playing. And I am very grateful that I am able to spend most of my time between 9 and 4 outdoors, talking to the staff, talking to the kids, talking to our administrators, and just watching what's going on so that I can make adjustments for the next day or the next week. And the reason I can do that is because I spend so much time after camp preparing for the next day. So from 4 o'clock until whenever I go home, which is usually 7:30, 8 o'clock, whatever time we're all done, I'm preparing for the next day. I'm meeting with administrators and dealing with whatever happens. We often say that at camp, if you're on the leadership team, you're just a firefighter. You're just constantly putting out fires. Whatever problems pop up, you have to go and fix it.
Yep.
So, there have been times when there's been something structurally wrong with a building or a pool, and you have to reroute campers on the fly, or you have to get some vendor to come in and fix the freezer or whatever it might be. So all of these things happen on a regular basis. I remember one time there was a day when we had no power at camp, and we had to reroute basically the entire schedule on the fly because we couldn't open our pools and we couldn't open any of our buildings that didn't have natural lighting. So yeah, it's a fun time.
I actually like those scenarios because it makes you think quick on your feet also, and it shows you the creativity that you have within yourself to make things work. So I always find that helps.
Yeah, it's very much on the fly problem solving.
Yeah, 100%.
And while that's stressful in the moment, there's a lot of joy and pride that comes with it when you are successful, and especially when you're successful within part of a team.
Yes,
it feels really good to solve a problem and do something amazing with other people that share the same passion as you do.
One of the questions that I always ask my guests, even before they come on the show, is what is the misconception? What is the common misconception about being a camp director? Do you remember what you wrote to me, Matt?
No, but I'm guessing it was something like, all we do is play kickball all day or something like that.
So you said to me, I wish you did write that, to be fair. You said to me that this job is not only for 2 months a year. And then you said running a camp is like running any other business. It's a 12-month long endeavor with significant time and thought and effort and investment into every decision, which is absolutely true.
I wrote you a better answer than I gave just now. So.
They're both good answers, to be fair. They both work, which is, I know that we touched on it before when you said, it's You may work in a certain way for 2 months, but for the rest of the 12 months, you're doing so much more. It's mostly, for me, you can correct me, Matt, if I'm wrong, but it's mostly PR, marketing, like you say. It's working with your team, it's trickling it down from the top down to, you know, everybody who goes out and meets the actual people. So for people to understand the definition of that, because people will have this conception in their mind of how, you know, it runs for the other months that you're not working, you know, fully out. How is that for you? Because like you said before, you know, I know that you're working with a team. Is there anything else that can help people to understand or define or understand the investment of what you do within it?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question because the time of the year really changes what we do. So it used to be like 10 or 15 years ago, it used to be that from September through December, it was pretty slow and we could kind of get away with not doing all that much. And now with the level of competition, there are so many other great camps out there and we're all trying to be the best that we can be. You really can't rest on your laurels, and you have to, you know, every hour that you have is an hour that you should spend making your camp better. So we really don't have too much of an off season anymore. So in the fall, we're doing a lot of recruiting. We get most of our campers to enroll in the fall, and we're doing some events for families. As we get into the winter time, we start to really ramp up hiring. And then in the spring, everything just starts to get busier and busier every single week. So from really March 1st through the summer, every week gets probably 25% harder. There's just more and more. So it's very cyclical. And I like that aspect of it because there's like a rebirth every fall where you just get to start over. And if you didn't like something about the previous camp season, you can change it. You don't have to live with it. You can make changes for the next summer. And, you know, I like that. But yeah, for the other 10 months of the year, I am mostly in an office by a computer, just like most other office jobs.
I totally understand that. I think in every role that we do in our life, you're going to have the parts that you think are absolutely fun and then parts that may not be as fun, but you still have to do them in order to make everything that you do function. So my next question for you is, when did you realize that language had power? The reason why I say that question is based upon you being an author, and words have power. How we articulate those words to people, how we say them, also with attitude and so many other things and elements that are part of this have power. But when did you realize, Matt, in your life that words had significant power?
Well, I think I've realized that in many different scenarios where I've said something to someone that I regretted. That's what comes to mind immediately.
Okay.
We all regret things we say sometimes, and I'm no exception to that. Words, you have to be careful. You know, they say, be careful of your thoughts because thoughts become words, and then words become actions.
That's true.
But I think more relevant to your question, I happen to have 3 incredible English teachers in my high school when I was 15, 16, and 17. It just so happened that that's the way it worked out. And through them, I really learned that I love literature. I love great literature, and I loved authors, especially Shakespeare. I had one teacher who we read Macbeth. I don't know why, but we seemed to read Macbeth like 4 times in the year, and he had it memorized. And it was just such a special thing. And I would say that those 3 teachers were so influential in keeping my love of literature, keeping my love of words. Because when you're a little kid, when you're young, you're always reading books with your parents and at school. But as you get into your teenage years, that sometimes wanes. But those teachers were really incredible. And I would say that they were a huge influence on me.
I love that. So I believe in life that everything starts off with a chance. It could be a chance from a person. It could be someone believing in you. Matt, who are some of the people that you believe gave you a chance in your life in order for you to prosper and do exactly what you wanted to do or be in your life?
Well, I know exactly who those people are. I'm very fortunate to know them and work with them every day.
I like that.
And I have two co-directors that work with me. And when I was 23 or maybe 24, I'm not sure, they went to the owner of the camp and they suggested that he hire me full time. And I was not a typical choice to be hired full time. I am and was an introvert. I am not in any sort of way a typical camp director. And I think the owner's response was, well, he never speaks. But my co-directors convinced him, and he took a chance on me. Mm-hmm. And it worked out. It worked out for the best.
What is some of the best advice, Matt, that you have ever received, and how has it helped you in your life?
So it's not like a catchphrase that I can just repeat, but when I was a young administrator at camp, I went from being a counselor, and a counselor is in charge of like 15 or 16 kids with two other counselors. And then if you're at camp for long enough and you do a good enough job, you can get promoted to division leader. And that's when you oversee 5 groups or 6 groups of these counselors and campers. So my first year when I was promoted, I wasn't having a good time at all. I was very frustrated because the counselors that I was supervising weren't doing things the way that I wanted them to do. I felt like I didn't have the same relationship with the children, and I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to go back to being a counselor. And someone that I work with, who I greatly respect, he could see it in my face that I wasn't enjoying it. And he said to me, "It's a big change, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And I explained everything that I just explained to you. And he said, "That is completely normal. Everybody feels that way. But you have to remember that you now get to influence so many more people."
That's true.
And what you do with that opportunity says a lot about who you are. Mm-hmm. So it kind of just turned everything around for me. Not instantly, but kind of made me think like, oh, I have to do this job a little bit differently than how I'm doing it right now. And that really impacted me.
One thing I love to talk about is judgment. There's a reason behind it. A lot of the time we get judged based upon who we are, what we do, our cultures, and so on and so forth, which I love to have open conversations about, because I feel like I get educated from people, from hearing their perspectives. But if I said to you, Matt, if we took the word judgment out of the dictionary and it didn't exist, what do you believe that you would have done differently in your life, knowing that the word judgment didn't exist?
I'm not sure I would have done anything differently.
I like that.
When I took the job at camp, a lot of people judged me. It was, it was, I had job offers for much more money, much more prestige. And for a lot of people, it felt like this was an easy way out, like an easy job. And I didn't feel like that at all. I felt like it was a much harder job than any other job I was interested in taking. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that I tend to make decisions not for what other people want me to do, but for what I believe is in my best interest. So, I'm sure there are some things that I would have changed if I can go back and do it over again. But I think the big decisions in my life, I make them for myself and not based on what other people are going to think about me.
Matt, if I said to you, I'm going to take you and put you on a desert island, and I said that you are allowed to bring one president, one activist, and one musician on that island, who would you take and why? I'm really interested in this.
Only one name is really coming to my mind,
Okay, go for it.
and that's Barack Obama, who I happen to be a big fan of. And not only do I think he's a great human being, but I actually think that he's funny and would be someone who'd be good to be around, because I think he'd get pretty lonely on that island, and he seems like a pretty good conversationalist. So I might pick him, and I'm sure that I could pick his brain about a few things and learn a few things along the way. So that's my answer.
No, that's fine. Do you have any activists or any musicians that you would take on the island?
It's very, very hard to narrow that down.
It would be.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I've always been interested in Gandhi.
That's a good one.
Just the way that he went about his activism is very sort of understated, and I don't know how much if he'd be great company, but I think I'd learn a lot from him. And then musician, I just can't answer because I have a very eclectic taste in music, and there's just no way that I can narrow anything down to just one musician. No way. I'm going to pass on that one.
No, that's fine. You're allowed to. To be fair, you're allowed to. So if I said, everyone defines success in a different way. Some people define success just by being able to wake up in the morning, fighting mental health, fighting cancer, passing a driving test. There are so many ways to define success. But in your own opinion and version of what success is to you, how would you define success?
For me, success is leaving it better than I found it.
Oh, that's a good answer.
I'm working on, whether it's my job, my family, whatever it might be, I always strive to leave it better than I found it.
Yeah, I love that. That completely makes sense. When was the last time that you felt totally at peace with yourself, Matt?
Totally at peace, I would say. I don't know if it was the last time, but the time that pops into my head was after my daughter was born, and she was a newborn, and I was just able to hold her for the first time, and she was completely relaxed at that point, which doesn't happen too often for a newborn. But that was just a moment where, in your head, you go, okay, take a Polaroid of this moment and remember it, because you don't get a lot of these in your life.
That's true.
So that's the one that comes to mind.
A lot of us talk about power in different areas of our lives and how it can help us. But if you had all the power in the world, what is the one thing that you would decide to change in order to make a difference?
Okay. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say I would eliminate social media.
Oh, I like you already.
And sort of beyond that, I would eliminate the idea of algorithms feeding us content and putting us into our echo chambers and that type of thing. So that's my answer. Whatever you believe in, there are plenty of people with good ideas who believe something different, and we should all be able to talk to each other civilly and not get into this garbage stuff on social media.
Matt, if you were not a camp director, what would you be? Just out of curiosity, I just want to ask.
I would probably be an information technology consultant.
Oh,
because that was the other job that I was going to have. So I would be sitting in an office wearing a suit most days in front of a computer doing that kind of thing. So I'm glad that I'm not doing that, but that's what I would be if I weren't a camp director.
I was just really interested and intrigued to know, because you've gone on a spectrum and then decided to go with what you love. So I would just had this desire to ask you, if you were not doing that, what would you be doing? And I can see you doing the other thing, but for some reason, I felt like the universe said nope. And decided to take you on the path that you were meant to go on.
The universe did say nope, and if you have a minute, I'll tell you an interesting story.
Yeah, of course.
about the universe saying nope. So when I graduated from college, from my university, from undergrad, it was May of 2001 in New York, and I was interviewing. I had a job lined up, and that offer was rescinded. So I was interviewing for jobs in the information technology field, and September 11th happened, 2001. And if that job offer hadn't been rescinded, I would have been at the World Trade Center that morning. That would have been my subway stop for my job. Gosh. So it was a weird twist of fate that I wasn't there. Something that seemed unlucky at the time became very lucky for me. And it was at that time that I decided maybe think about doing something else and maybe keep my options open, because you never know what can happen. So that in one very strange way was the universe telling me maybe to do something different with my life.
I think the universe saved your life that day.
Could be.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. So I've only got 2 more questions for you, Matt. And my second to last one is, if there is anything that you would like people to take away from our conversation, what would you like them to take away?
I think that for me, the special thing about summer camp is this idea of belonging. Yeah. And I think that with all the technology and everything that's in our world today, people don't have the same sense of belonging that they once had.
That's true.
It used to be that on a weekend, you couldn't just sit on your phone and scroll. So people would go to a bowling alley or to a restaurant, or they would go to like a third place, right? Like you have your home, your work, and then your third place. Yeah. So you'd be a regular somewhere, like a club. And that doesn't happen as much anymore. And I think that this idea of creating communities that are intentional, creating communities that intentionally make people feel like they belong, is something that's scientific. It can be done if you know how to do it. Yes. And I think that we should all take the opportunity to make whatever community we're a part of a little bit more intentional and have a little bit more sense of belonging.
Which leads me to my last question for you, Matt, which is about legacy. A lot of people seem to believe that legacy is when we are gone. I don't believe that, because I feel that legacy is an everyday occurrence in what we do, how we speak to people, what we say to people, how we speak to a stranger. From your definition of what legacy means, what does legacy mean to you?
So I think legacy is just something that will live on after you're gone.
Yes.
And I think it goes back to what success means, right? Success for me is leaving it better than you found it. And if you can point to whatever you're doing and say, hey, after I'm gone, or when I stop working here, or when I stop going to school here, or whatever it might be, someone's going to remember me because of this thing.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be something big. It just has to be something meaningful to you. And, we teach that to our staff every summer, that your legacy is how you treat these children and how they take the way you treated them and they treat others in the real world outside of camp. So, legacy can be anything. It's what you decide that it is.
See, I like that. So finally, I would love for everyone to be able to find you on any social medias, to know more about you being a camp director and also an author. Where can we find you, Matt?
Sure. So I have, I'm on, my website is ilove.camp.
Yes.
I'm on LinkedIn at Matthew J. Kaufman. Yes. I'd love to hear from you. And I have 2 books. I have a book called The Summer Camp MBA, which is a staff training guide for young people who work in camp or work outside of camp. And then my new book is The Campfire Effect, which is about how to engineer belonging in a disconnected world. And it takes all of the scientific principles that we use at camp to make children and adults feel like they belong. And it shows you how you can apply that to whatever community you're in, whether it's your school, your workplace, your family, whatever it might be.
I feel like we need that more now than ever, to be fair, Matt.
I think so too. I think it's important. And I think that human beings need to connect on a more human level rather than on a digital level.
I completely agree.
I'm a big fan of getting that message out there.
We definitely are going to do that today. So, Matt, this is where I have the kindness and the pleasure of saying thank you so much for taking your time to come on the podcast, for showing the world who you are as an individual, for standing up and knowing what makes you happy in your purpose, in your profession, in the power of who you are. I appreciate you, and I know our guests also appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Great talking to you.
And you too. And this is where I say, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Us People podcast. And please remember, you can subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or any other platform that you prefer listening to. Please also go on the Savia Rocks website or the Us People podcast website and become part of the community where you can listen to any episode you desire. And please also you can go right back to the first episode where you can find any episode that suits you, or listen to the main one or the most recent one that's out. And this is where I say, guys, thank you so much for listening. Stay happy, stay positive, and as always, please continue to be kind to one another. Take care.
I'ma get deeper. Tables are turning, world in reverse, political burning. Where is the love? Where is the hope? Where is the faith inside? It's been misplaced, power being misguided, manipulation used for both sides, unjustified violence. You living it up in your kingdom where you're using the misguided ones to do.
We're good, Matt.
All right, that was excellent. You are really good at this. You really are.
Well, to be fair, it's thanks to the guest. It's not just me. Without the guest, you don't have a show. And I always forever see it that way, I think.
Globes in rewind, political ablaze. Where's compassion? Where's the love? 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 Where is the love? Where is the hope? Where is the faith inside? How do you breathe and how do you sleep? I guess it's a lie you've been telling yourself. Get deeper, tables are turning, world in reverse, political burning. Change the status, sins of your fathers, ripping through time, we living and breathing it. How could I breathe when I see people dying on both sides? We need to do better, shell shock, yeah, imagine that. Powers pretending they don't even have blood on their hands. Playing on both sides, you know what you did. Change the status quo, sins of your fathers, rippling through time, we living it, breathing it. Kings and queens, mass destruction, digging mass graves, driven by the greed. You don't really care, devil smile in my face. Your hidden agenda ain't really about peace. Your hidden agenda ain't really about love. How do you breathe and how do you sleep? I guess it's a lie you've been telling yourself. The lies we see through the darkness and the blurry lines. I'm about to dive in deep. The wheels are spinning, globes in rewind, political ablaze. Where's compassion? Where's the love? Where's the love?